Hello, guys, and welcome back to All for United. I haven't been on here in a while, but I will be back here for a good time. Hopefully, I'm joined today with John, Stu, and RP. If you guys would like to say hello to everybody, you're unmuted now. And as you can tell by the title of the video, we will be talking about Jadon Sancho and what we think is his best position, or how can Ten Hag get the best out of him as a Manchester United player. Because if we're all honest with ourselves and with each other, given the hype that he had when he was at Dortmund, coming from England as a teenager, performing at the levels he did, when we signed him, whether or not it might have been at the right time or too late, he just hasn't been able to live up to expectations as of yet. And there has been something which I've seen recently over the last week is people questioning whether, if we were able to get a decent amount for him, would you let him go in the summer? Me personally, I wouldn't. But if that is something that's crossing the mind of a lot of United fans, I guess that does say a lot about how he hasn't been performing at the level he should be in a Manchester United shirt. But I'm going to start with this question for you, Stu. Straight off the bat, what do you think is his best position in a Ten Hag system?
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of struggling, because I know Ten Hag's been playing him as a 10. We brought him in as a wide player. His attacking prowess with Dortmund was predominantly out wide, but he did used to kind of get involved centrally as well. And a lot of his assists were his partnership with Royce, his partnership with Haaland. And he became this kind of all-round type of player at Dortmund. He became absolutely pivotal to Dortmund and the way that they actually played, the way they set up their attacking system was based around what Sancho could do. He was relatively quick in the final third. He would attack, he would cross, he would get to the byline, he would cut inside his left foot. He would pretty much do everything. But let me be clear about this, and most people on AFU will know that I wasn't over enamored when we were linked with him, certainly at 120 euros or whatever it was at the time. And I got absolutely castigated for it, by the way. You know, I was getting abuse left, right, and centre. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't get football, blah, 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 blah. Go and watch German football, etc., etc., etc. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, it hasn't kind of taken off for him. And I don't know what that is. Now, I'm a huge believer in that the player's got to take the responsibility for that. The club doesn't have to take responsibility. The player has to do it. So what is he not doing that he should be doing? Or is it a case of that he is doing it and he's trying everything he can, but he just can't find that rhythm and that groove that allows him to slot into a Manchester United side, not just a Ten Hag side, but a Manchester United side? My big worry for him is he reminds me so much of Ravel Morrison in as much as he's got this precocious talent. And we all know he's got this talent. We all know he's a wonderfully talented footballer. But he's venturing into the abyss. For whatever reason, he's on this sailboat and he just can't, he's heading out to the ocean, and we just can't drag him back. And we need to be able to do this. But he's got to help himself, Anton. As one of the big things, as a player, you have to help yourself, because in the cold light of day, it's you and only you that affects your performance. I know people talk about coaching all the time, and I get it, but that's guidance. That's all that is. Coaching is guidance. Coaching is, we need you here, and this is why we need you here. Try it with your left foot rather than your right foot. That's basic what I'm talking about, obviously, but it's guidance is coaching. It's the player himself, a bit like Rashford, that can really dig deep inside himself and lift himself out of this ghost or this shell that he's in. And so you need to knock on the door, open it, and the real Jadon Sancho needs to come through. But that's, for me, where we are with him. And it's a real shame, because I think he's a massively talented footballer. It wasn't the right time for us to buy him because we're too much in transition, or we were in transition. Maybe and I'm sure the lads will have an opinion on this, maybe if he come in at the beginning of the Ten Hag era, we may have seen the Jadon Sancho we saw at Dortmund. It's difficult to say, but that's my kind of overriding thoughts.
That was a very big thought, and I understood all of that, actually. But what about you, John? What are your thoughts on the Jadon Sancho situation? Do you think he can somewhat revive his Manchester United career?
I mean, I married Sancho at Dortmund. I personally did like us sign him. I personally think it, as I was saying backstage to yourselves, I do wonder whether it would have been better if he'd signed for us the year before when we were heavily linked with him, possibly, because then he might have had a season, behind closed doors, and that might have helped him. And I think at that moment that was the priority signing for us. It didn't happen. Maybe by the time we did sign him the following summer, maybe it wasn't the biggest priority for us. So for me, I do like Sancho to some degree. However, even I'm beginning to my patience starting to leave slightly thin for him. Obviously, he didn't have the easiest start to his United career. I mean, we touched upon Sancho and Rashford. Both of them missed the penalties for England in the Euros, didn't they? And we know that Rashford had a really poor season last season. Sancho had a bit of a hit and miss season in terms of he kept becoming unwell, and then and it's hard to get with them. We've seen it a bit with Anthony this season as well, but and it's just something that's plagued his career. I think that's possibly the biggest factor with Sancho is that it's almost stop start with him at his United career. He had time off at the World Cup. How long was he off? I remember his last game was the Chelsea game, wasn't it?
I think so.
Cup, and it was not a good performance. He came off, and then when he did come back, I think it was late January, wasn't it? And he did look good. And there have been some moments where you felt he might be coming back. A bit like he got the equaliser against Leeds, didn't he? And he played well when he came on. And I was at the Leicester game a few weeks back, and he came on at half time. For me, it was brilliant. In that kind of, I think he dictated the improvement in our play, but it's very few and far between, and it's just that lack of consistency, and he needs to develop that. I mean, when you look at traditionally his record at Dortmund, he did always start season slowly, but from the second half of the season, that's when he started to contribute, getting the goals and assists. It was usually in the second half of the season. And I thought that's what we might get at United, but it hasn't quite materialised that. But for me, he's really just got to get his head down now. And I do think now, I'm not sure he will go in the summer personally. He's on a lot of money. You can't ignore the fact I think he's on 300k wages, so it won't even be easy to get rid of, even if we do look to sell him. But for me, he really needs to start getting that consistency, and maybe look at his fitness possibly, because if he keeps going off, it's like Martial, it's not reliable, and he needs to start getting fit, playing regularly. Sancho should be in the first team, and he isn't. And ultimately that's what he's got to aim towards, and but I think we're getting now towards the climax season. We just don't know what Sancho we're going to get. And I must say, the other thing with Sancho is it's like a few of our wingers, they probably suit coming off the bench. How many, apart from Rashford, who of our wingers would you say they're better when they start? It's almost as if most players, Garnacho, with Pelestri, Anthony, they probably suit coming off the bench. They need to deliver more when they actually start, and for me, that's somewhere we do need to prove in that. So yeah, that's what. But he's got to start improving soon, otherwise, Ten Hag might say, "Well, you've had your chance, time to go."
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that he won't leave in the summer. I can't see that happening at all. But you did mention his Dortmund stats, which I conveniently have on the screen here. In the 2018-19 season, he played 34 games. This is in the Bundesliga only. He got 12 goals and 14 assists. The next season, he played less games. He played 32 games, got 17 goals and 16 assists. And then the season before he joined us, he played 26, got 8 goals and 11 assists. I mean, as a teenager abroad, I guess those are very good stats. And everyone would have seen those graphics where it would be the goals and assists contributed all competitions for one season. He was keeping up with Messi and Mbappe and Neymar. He was ahead of these players. But of course, ever since he's come to United, it just hasn't seemed to work out. And RP, why do you think it just hasn't worked out for him at Manchester United?
So I've got a question for everybody first.
Yeah.
How would you rate Anthony's season this season?
I think it's been all right.
All right, yeah. Stu?
Yeah, I think he's been decent. Look, I was majorly critical of Anthony. You won't be surprised to hear this. If I was on the pitch with him and he'd done that fucking round the world, and I was anywhere near him, I'd have knocked his fucking head off, because you don't do that in football. And I said this about Zidane Iqbal at pre-season tour when he did his round the world against Brisbane. You just don't do that. These are the types of things you don't do. When you look at Sancho, he's not interested in that. And that's the problem, actually. That's his issue. I'm not saying do the round the world, but he's not fucking taking the players on with the skill and the zest that he used to have with Dortmund. So for me, Anthony's been decent. He's not been a world beat. He's been decent. And I don't think you could get a better first season. What's he got, 6 goals or something? Along those lines.
So that's why I'm asking the question. So I would say there's been a relative amount of criticism towards Anthony in particular this season. So he's got 9 goals and 3 assists this season.
It's 9, is it? There you go.
Yeah.
But that does include Ajax, though.
I think it's for this season. I'm not sure whether it includes Ajax or not.
He's only got 1 assist for United, but he had 2 for Ajax.
So his season stats for this season is basically 1 away in each department, and what Sancho's managed for United since he's been here, which is 10 goals, 4 assists, which is nowhere near good enough. My issue for Sancho is not necessarily his ability or anything to do with other than I don't see where he starts, and Sancho has surely got to start. He's good enough to start at a club, but he's not going to start on the left because Rashford's going to start there. He's not going to start on the right because Anthony's, whether we like it or not, a favourite of Ten Hag, so he's going to start there. He's not going to start as an attacking midfielder because when everyone's fit, that is 100% Fernandez's place, and he's not going to start up front. So I'd be interested to see where he's going to fit. And then even if you jump down the pecking order a little bit, he's not going to come on the left because Garnacho, when he's back, has been in good form, doing well this season, won us a couple of games. It'll be interesting to see how it's managed. Now, his record at Dortmund is ridiculous. I think in all competitions, his last season was 20 assists, 20 goals in all comps. It's like some of the stats are actually mad. The interesting thing for me is there's a debate about whether he should play right or left wing, and his output on the right is as good as his output on the left. I think he was actually better on the left in terms of goals or assists per minute. So he can play in both. It's just, I'm starting to wonder if he actually suits the system or not that Ten Hag wants to play. I don't think he suits this system that we're playing currently because I just don't see him as an out-and-out counter-attacking player. He's not that player. He's a smarter player, if that makes sense.
I'd go against that. I almost agreed with your point until you said that. Because when you watched him at Dortmund, regardless of the stats, the way they played under Tuchel, and Lucien Favre, I think, was a manager after Tuchel that had Jadon Sancho at Borussia Dortmund. All of their play was, and you'd see if you watch the Haaland goal compilations, him and Jadon Sancho linking up, all of them were on the turn. All of them were counter-attacking.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. If you watch the compilation, I would say 85% of them are Haaland breaking the lines with his run and Sancho finding the pass.
Exactly, but we don't have that.
No, but that's what I mean. I don't think he suits the current setup in terms of we've not got the forward for him. And he's not the guy that's going to get on the turn and sprint in behind. He wants to get the ball and play the pass. So we got Weghorst up front. That's not going to suit him at all. It might suit him if Rashford was playing up front, but then we haven't got a left midfielder that can cover that. I think maybe once Ten Hag gets to play the football he wants to play, where the defense is much higher than it is now, and there's a lot more pressure on the ball, we're winning the ball higher up, and he can use his intelligence a bit more. He might settle in. I was the same as Stu. I didn't understand the signing of him in the first place. But mine was for different reasons. Mine was just the amount of money we were paying for him and the size of the contract, which was very Woodward era. It was too much. He had not done enough in the game. Obviously, he'd had fantastic seasons, but he'd not done enough to justify the outlay of, was it something like 160 million over the term of his contract, including the transfer fee? It was absolutely massive. So I hope we can find a place for him and he finds his form, because there's definitely a player there. It's just, I don't think the setup that as it is what he needs. He needs a few more players around him for sure. I mean,
I agree with that.
The centre forward is a big issue for him.
I agree with that, Dan, because the best position for Sancho in our current team is to go completely against the Erik ten Hag grain, so to speak. And that's to play a midfield diamond and two up top. So you're looking at Rashford and Kane, for argument's sake, next season. And the diamond are being Bruno is a 10, Eriksen, Sancho, and Casemiro, say, or a holding player. So you're kind of looking at it that way. Okay. And then you've got Eriksen and Sancho. Depending on which side you want to play him, I don't think it matters, because what you're talking about is him driving from deep. And Anton's absolutely right. He's brilliant, or was brilliant, at taking the ball on the turn. And if you remember, Anton, he would take it deep, wouldn't he, at Dortmund?
Yeah.
So that would give him, that gives us the Eriksen-Bruno combination, Casemiro combination we crave, because that's the most free-flowing three that we have. What it does do, though, it removes, and it doesn't actually remove our attacking width, because you've got cover from Eriksen, you've got cover from Sancho to help the defenders if the defenders overlap, or vice versa. When we do take it deep, we can either attack wide or we can attack a bit narrower. Bruno, they can then push up and make a 3 if we need, and then you've got Sancho and Eriksen just behind those front 3 if we need. So it becomes a really fluid way of playing football. And of course, you've got Casemiro can mop up when we need to. What you're relying on, though, is Sancho and Eriksen being disciplined out of possession, just to come in and just sit around the halfway line, just behind the halfway line, to help Casemiro. But going forward would be absolutely dynamic. Now, if you do get someone like Kane, I mean, you know, he's going to be 30, 31 if he comes to us in the summer. I actually think we will. I think Harry Kane will come to us. We know he's leaving Tottenham. If he stays at Tottenham, he's winning nothing. He's going to want something in his career. We know he's leaving Tottenham, and I think he'll come to us. Something along those lines would be absolutely brilliant. Now, the good thing about this is that Ten Hag can also revert back to the 4-3-3, and he can utilise Antony and utilise Garnacho and utilise whoever else he wants to utilise, you know, against different opponents. So I tend to agree with you, Dan. I don't think he suits Ten Hag's system right now, but I think he could do if we get the right personnel. And it probably only needs one player.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it was a 4-2-3-1 at Dortmund that he used to play, and a 3-4-3, and it got the best out of him because when he was playing the 3-4-3, he didn't really have to overcommit defensively, and it was basically give the ball to him and he would make something happen. And in the 4-2-3-1, it was the same. The two DMs would cover his position. So if he had a little bit of a rest or went a little bit walkabout, went out of his position, it was absolutely fine because the cover was there. It's just, if he went to a different team, I won't mention the name, he would be absolutely flying because it was ready for him to be there. Whereas we're sort of still a work in progress. Ten Hag's sort of gone down the Solskjaer route, and we're going to have to play on the counter-attack because we haven't got what I need currently. I think it will change a lot next season. I just hope he has got enough about him to sort of say, I'll force my way back in. I'm good enough to play here. I'll force my way back in. Because looking at it, there's definite starters above him at the minute. He would have to have some turnaround of form to get back in the starting 11 because all of his positions are in essence filled.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
John, do you think he has, I guess, the mental capacity to force his way back into the team? Because, as Dan just said, there are obvious starters in front of him, Rashford and Anthony on either wing. I might even put Garnacho as a starter ahead of Jadon Sancho at the moment. But do you think he has the willingness to, I guess, force his way back into the team?
Well, only he can answer that question. But I think that I think he's obviously been given the opportunity to, and obviously it's a big moment for him. Garnacho's injured now, so he is going to get a lot of minutes, so it's up to him to make the most of that and get that consistent. For me, and for me, yeah, it's I'm sure he will back himself. Now, I did read the other week that apparently he spent a bit more time with Benny McCarthy on the training ground as well. So I do think perhaps that's a sign that he is trying to work on his game and that, and it doesn't always happen quickly, but maybe it's just like what his strength is. When I've seen him play, he's as opposed to Rashford. Rashford is a head down playing run. Sancho's more of a head up, a much more continental way of playing it. In Europe and Germany, it's like you play with your head up, you try and pass it around it. You look at Sancho's strengths, it's mainly around playing quick 1-2s, isn't it? With forwards, like you look at his goals, like I mentioned, against Leicester, it was a quick 1-2 with Bruno. It was a quick 1-2, I think it was Shaw against Leeds. His goal against Liverpool, those type of goals, it's like the quick pass and movement. That's what his actual strength is. And but what he hasn't got is he doesn't like to take on the fullback all the time, and that's something perhaps he needs to learn to do. Like if he's caught on the byline, there's no one to pass to. It's almost like he doesn't know what to do with it. So for me, that's where he needs to develop his game a little bit more. But whereas if you, like you mentioned, if you get someone like a Kane, we know with Harry Kane is a brilliant goal scorer, but he does like to get involved in the play and feed, his teammates like Son and that at Tottenham. So if you were to get a striker who is to link all the play and all that, and also in fairness, Martial is quite good at it,
Yeah.
So for me, I think perhaps if, that's the other argument, if Martial had been fit, maybe that might have, helped to, improve the team a little bit more. So for me, it's about trying to get team that, brings it all together almost. And for me, that's where I think Sancho, you might begin to see a bit consistency once he has a forward who is willing to play those quick 1-2s with and that. So for me, that's his game, but he also needs to develop his own game and learn to take on a play a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I agree totally with what you said there, especially with the Martial situation. But I'm kind of at the point with Martial where I don't really even think about him anymore. Yeah, cool, he's coming back, he's in training, but it doesn't excite me.
Well, apparently he's been training for a couple of weeks, I think, now, and been involved in training. But I think with Ten Hag, he's now said, look, we're going to not put you in the lineup. We're going to see how you do in training and not rush you back. And then maybe if he doesn't get injured in international break, maybe we might see him against Newcastle, hopefully.
But with him as well, I think regardless of whether he manages to even finish the remainder of the season unaffected, I think we should still let him go in the summer and generate a couple funds to bring in more than one striker, because I'd take Kane, Osimhen, but I'd also take Ferguson from Brighton as a backup to whoever we buy him, loan him back, whatever you want to do. But he got the type of link up that we need with someone like Sancho, because at the moment we've got Weghorst up front, or Rashford, whatever rotation they play in the game. But yeah, Weghorst is good at holding up the ball. He's a good presser. He's good this and that. But one, he doesn't finish chances. Not just Sancho, but plenty of players will have less assists because Weghorst hasn't been able to finish what he's been given. But also, he's not quick enough with the ball at his feet. If Jadon Sancho goes for a 1-2 with Haaland at Dortmund or Paco Alcácer or Michy Batshuayi, he gets it back and he's on the run, he's on the move. at Manchester United with Weghorst, he gets the ball into feet and then he can't really start going on the move because he doesn't get it back in that time. So it's a lot of static play. It's not as fluid as it should be, and it isn't as fluid as what Sancho requires to actually perform at the highest level, because there's so many times, obviously I watch every Manchester United match and I like to focus on some players, and I do watch Sancho quite closely, but whenever I see him on the ball, he's never moving. Not because he didn't make movements to get the ball, but his ball possession is very, very static. It's not on the move that much. And I see him, and I think Stu said it, or John, he doesn't con defenders like he should, or he's not doing it as well as he could do. And I'm always going to compare it to his time at Dortmund, because that's when he was at his best. But it was on the move. It was all at high speed. He's not the fastest player, and I don't think he's ever been the fastest player. But at Dortmund, he had way more of the ball compared to at Manchester United. I feel like he's one of those players who's able to reach his top speed with the ball at his feet, which is why I think, which I think might be a reason as to why he's not doing so well at Manchester United, because we are higher up the pitch. We do have a lot of possession in and around the box. Even under Solskjaer, sometimes we did, well, when Sancho was playing, we did have a lot of possession further up the field. So it was, I guess, more difficult for him to be playing that run from deep kind of football with the ball. But with the way that Ten Hag's going, I think, and with the strikers that we are being linked to, I think a player like Sancho doesn't have anything to worry about, because you do need to fight for your place, otherwise you will get shipped out. But I think there will be a style of play which suits him a lot more. And hopefully that'll be next season with a striker like Harry Kane. But I have some stats for you here, which I revised before the stream started. And I'm on a website called Transfer Market. You probably would have heard of it.
Is that a big blackboard you got hands on? No, I mean that you're looking at.
Oh, no, it's my screen. I thought there was something on my camera for a second. But with Sancho this season, he's played only 40% of the minutes that Manchester United have played. Of course, we've played, I think, the most games in Europe. And also, we do have to take into account that he did miss a large portion of the season through like personal issues. But his minutes, he's only made the starting 11 46% of the time. Whether or not you love Sancho, whether or not you look at that price tag and think he's not justifying it, only being picked less than half of the time to start a match isn't a very good look. And in my personal opinion, I don't think he's doing enough to get back into the conversation for Ten Hag to be like, oh, am I dropping Anthony today? Am I doing this or that today? Because no, there's 3 screens. There's only 3 screens, Connor. But with the work that Anthony does, and even Rashford and Garnacho on the other side, you don't see Sancho doing that work. And I'm talking about the defensive side of his game. Again, Dortmund, he didn't have to do that. I think Dan said it. They played in a 3-4-3 or a 4-2-3-1. But what we haven't spoken about at all is who he's playing a right back with. Because at Dortmund, he had Thomas Meunier, who's effectively right midfielder, or Achraf Hakimi, again, the same sort of player. They're able to get up and down the pitch without breaking a sweat. Link up players, elite. We were linked to both of them, but more specifically Thomas Meunier. They're good going forward. They're good putting in crosses. They're good also getting back and not having to say to Sancho, yeah, you're going to need to help me, because they're quite solid defensively as well. And in the 2 right backs that we have at the moment, you get one or the other. With Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you get one of the best one-on-one defenders in world football in his position, but he's getting better going forward, but you can't see the level of comfort which you would associate with a high-level player. Or you have Diogo Dalot, who's good going forward, but he's a bit suspect defensively, which is why I think someone like Anthony has priority over Sancho, because he does offer that almost a second man coming back on the defensive cover. But with the right back situation that we have, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is still being linked with a move away from Manchester United. So as well as getting a new striker in, what right back do you think is available for Manchester United to buy to, I guess, unlock Jadon Sancho? I don't really want to say that because we went through that with Pogba, but it kind of has to be said.
You've got the issue that players have is if you're not adaptable, and Sancho doesn't appear to be adaptable right now, is that you can't, as a footballer, you can't look behind you, or you can't look to your left, or can't look to your right, or in front of you, as to, well, if you're not doing this, then you're starting my game, or I'm not doing this for you. And you can't have that kind of attitude. And I think you're right, by the way. I think he has got this connection issue with our fullbacks, whereas Anthony has a much better connection with Wan-Bissaka than he does with Dalot. Sancho doesn't have a connection with anyone, but that's really down to his personality and the way that he plays the game. And communication is key all over the pitch, but communication is key between a fullback and a wide right player. Because if Wan-Bissaka or Dalot is going past him and that, then Sancho's got to make a decision. Do I just drop back 10 yards and kind of give myself an opportunity to get back and cover Maguire or cover Varane or cover Liche, whoever's playing at the time? Or do I push on and try and get the cut back and get a crossing or go for a strike? It's a balance that he's not getting right at the minute, and that really is down to communication. Because Wan-Bissaka and Sancho should be having this conversation way before the game kicks off and saying, well, look, if I go past you, I might not get back, so I need you to drop 10 yards. Okay, and I'll look for Bruno at the edge of the area, I'll look for X, Y, and Z, whoever it may be, with Weghorst. If they're not having this conversation, then there is this miscommunication. And Sancho, I'm not saying he's lazy, but if he's not dragged into position, then I think there's an issue with somebody like that. So if you're Jadon Sancho, are you 23 years of age or 22 years old? However, I think he's 23 now in your job.
Yeah,
he's 23. So if you're Jadon Sancho...
Oh, no, he's 22. Sorry.
He's 22. If you're not looking at your career right now, and you're not thinking to yourself, hold on, 2 years ago I was an England international. I was lauded as an England international. Look at me now. I'm nowhere near the England squad. If you're not, questioning yourself constantly every day, badgering yourself to get better and better and better, then you've got to wonder whether or not you're in the right trade. Now, you could argue that 350 grand a week or whatever he's on is a head turner, which it is. But he was probably on 60 grand a week at Dortmund anyway. So he was already, he'd already got money in the bank. But there are players that completely switch off when they get a contract of that size. And you've had it with Salah at the beginning of the season. He's kind of turned his form around a lot. You had it with Sanchez. He couldn't be asked, could he? Let's be honest. He just came, took the 400 grand or whatever it was. Ronaldo, you could argue, was more interested in the money rather than really playing for us. At Aubameyang, Ozil, there's loads of footballers. Look at Hazard at Real Madrid. 400 grand a week he's on. As hardly kicks a football.
Yeah.
There is an element of issue for the size of contracts you give footballers. I mean, there's just not one example. There's tons of examples of footballers who've got the real contracts, the big contracts, and switched off. And maybe there's an element of that with Sancho. Maybe he's looking at his bank account. He's got 25, 30 million quid in his bank. And he's thinking to himself, oh, I've got another 2-3 years on my contract left. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll just chill out, relax.
Yeah.
By the time I come out, I'm going to have 75 million quid in the bank. And it sounds harsh. It sounds wrong. But unfortunately, it's right. And if he wants to be the player that we know he can be, then he's got to tuck in his skirts and he's got to do afternoon training sessions. He's got to sit with the analytics team and saying, right, I'm up against Chilwell this week. What's his strengths? What's his weaknesses? How can I get at Ben Chilwell? But he won't do that. These players can't be asked. They get in the Lambos and they go home. Actually, I think Rashford is doing that. Rashford's completely changed the way that he his approach to football. He's tired at the minute, and I think we're all seeing that. And to some way, look at the way now that Harry Maguire is playing. Harry Maguire is playing within himself. He's playing very well, but he's playing within himself. So he's that scared of making a mistake He's doing the simple things. If you notice against Fulham, he got the ball, and if he couldn't see anyone around, he's like panicking because he's the crowd are going to have me back. If I give it to De Gea and he makes a mess of the kick, I'm going to get the issue. Sancho's getting all this as well. Sancho's having this real problem. I can't go around somebody. What if I lose it? What if there's a turnover? What if they go up and they score? The crowd are going to get on at me. This is where, Anton, you've got to have the absolute bollocks to say, tough, I'm going to play my game of football.
Yeah.
I'm going to go at it. And if the crowd don't like it, fuck them. You have to do that as a professional footballer. You've got to be selfish. Ruud van Nistelrooy would be. If he hadn't scored for 3 games, he'd be ripping the fucking dressing room to pieces. He'd be having a right go at somebody.
Yeah.
Whoever it be, Scholes, Keane. You're not passing me the fucking ball. I'm in the space. You ain't passing me the ball. This is the type of mentality you need at the very, very, very highest level.
Yeah.
If you're on if you haven't scored for 2 games, you're ripping the ball off Bruno for the penalty. You're putting it down and you're putting it away yourself. These are the things you've got to do. And players respect it, by the way. They don't get angry with it. They respect it. They like it and they need it. And he's got to have this. He's really got to find it within himself to be aggressive, to be angry, to be horrible, be nasty. Because that always used to make me the best player I could be when I was playing. I used to have to be angry, nasty, and aggressive. If I was on a game where I couldn't be bothered, I was rubbish. I was terrible. I had to have this aggression. And maybe Sancho's that. Maybe he needs that. I don't know. But anyway, fullback-wise, sorry. I like Max Aarons.
Max Aarons from Norwich.
Yeah.
He's quick. He can defend. And he's very good going forward. He's not as good as Wan-Bissaka game, in reverse, but I don't know who is as a one-on-one tackler.
I think whoever you get, you're going to have to accept that. You're not going to get the same level of defensive ability from whoever you bring in. Yeah, Walker Peters is a good shout. I just think that we should go for Hakimi.
Good job. But I like Max Aarons because he's a shortest type of player, but he's very, very quick, very dynamic, and I like a dynamic fullback. But and you're right about the young lad from Brighton. We should be snapping him up for 30 million in the summer. In fact, we should be doing that now. We should be on that case.
Ferguson, you mean?
Ferguson.
Yeah.
We should be on that case.
It is Irish, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
No.
Either way, we should be on the case. Look, Cancelo, absolute poser, no chance. Poser, no chance, not for me.
Dan, were you going to say something as well?
Yeah, I was just going to back up Stu's point about Sancho and the reason I think we saw him off social media and stuff in the middle of the season for the break. So obviously going back to the Fulham game, if he sits down 2 players and he's basically scored, but for someone punching the ball off the line. And I've seen so many media outlets, people on Twitter saying, well, what's he doing not scoring? Well, if he didn't punch it off the line, it would have been a goal. And it would have been a really good goal.
Having said that, it was a bit of a timid finish from him, though.
What I'm saying is he's got the intelligence to go through, sit down 2 players and score, but for Willian handballing it. And that goal going in probably would have given him a massive bit of confidence because he's just sat 2 people down.
Well,
this is what I mean. So he got so much criticism from certain radio stations and people on Twitter saying, well, how's he not finished it? I don't see what he did wrong because he sat 2 players down and the shot's only been stopped because it's been punched off the line. Otherwise, it's a goal. He could literally have done nothing better than what he did, other than maybe blasting it with his left. But I mean, he has got us a triple sending off after that. But it's that sort of thing. When you're in a bad run of form, and Maguire again is another prime example of this, the pressure at Man United is massive. So I've had a few debates about Maguire just recently. So Maguire's had 10 starts for United since the World Cup, and we've won all 10. He's played 20 appearances since the World Cup, and we've won 19 of 20. And somehow he's still getting criticised. And he was obviously nowhere near the 7-0. He didn't take part in it. I think the only game he was involved in that we lost was the Arsenal game where they scored right at the death, and he probably should have come on a bit earlier. And it's just that, it's the mentality. And Maguire's within himself playing because of the issues that they're getting off the pitch and the media attention. And that's my worry with Sancho, that that could happen as well. If he hasn't got the right people around him, he's going to get affected by, like I say, he sat 2 players down and scored a really good goal if the guy don't punch it off the line. And he's been criticised for it. And I find it incredible that you can sit 2 players down on the highest stage, basically have a goal robbed off you, and the 5 days prior to it or past it, you're getting criticised for it. And I just hope he can block that out mentally and to push forward.
That's a good point, actually.
It is, yeah. It's a really interesting point, that. And I did think that this myself when I was watching it live, that he's gone round beautifully, the goalkeeper. Absolutely terrific. Then he's got the turn on it, and he thinks he's tapping it into an empty net, doesn't he? That's the thing. So he's in his mind, as soon as he got that space, that's it, it's goal. That's his mind. And then suddenly Willian came out of fucking nowhere, takes it on the hand, and away you go. Now, you could argue that Willian, in fact, there's 2 arguments really for the Willian thing. He's too experienced and should have known better. Just let the goal go in. I mean, you've got 11 men on the pitch and you've got a chance of maybe winning the game. But he didn't. He lost his head and he's done that. And
they all lost it.
And all of a sudden, as you quite rightly said, right? So, Sancho sits 3 players down, I think it was in the end.
Yeah.
And then he goes and gets 3 people sent off, all in the space of 90 seconds, right? And he was castigated for it. Oh, he should have put it away, should have put it away, should have put it away. But if he scores, then it's 1 each. And they've got 11 men on the pitch, and we're all and do we win the game in full time? Who knows? So it's a really interesting point. And this is the thing about football knowledge, being a fan of football, watching football, but real knowledge of the game. There's a huge difference between understanding the footballing knowledge. When I said on a different channel about that, I didn't say about his confidence, but I talked about Willian's stupidity in costing Fulham, I think, the game just by that. So it's a really good point you make. And again, it gets forgotten about because people don't get it. They don't understand football.
Yeah. No, for me, I think that good points made there. I still think he's got
3 people off on it now.
I do personally. I don't get major criticism because it did, like you say, did lead to 3. But I still think he should have scored it though. I do honestly believe he should have talked to him. I would look to replay maybe, because when was coming to there, I think he should have maybe put in the other corner way because that's where the space was, in my opinion. But
that's where Willian was. That's where, if you think about the left foot, right?
Yeah,
he pings it with his left foot, right? Now Willian was there. Willian was at that position because by the time he didn't ping it with his left foot, he turned around on his right. Willian was here, and so he might. I don't think he would have scored with his left.
For me,
no,
I don't mean simply. When you say he should have scored, he did score. The only reason he didn't score was because Willian punched it off the line. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a goal. Yeah. So if Willian doesn't cheat, it's a goal.
Do you think? That's one thing that could happen in a case like that. I know it was given a penalty in that, and those are rules, but technically, I do wonder whether you should send the player off for red, and the ref just said, right, it's a goal anyway. Because it was.
Yeah, I suppose you can still when you get the Suarez incident,
so he gets the goal. Yeah, and I know it's not within the rules and all that, but I do think maybe that's something like if a player stops the ball with their arm going in, do you just give the goal without giving it a penalty? If you know what I mean.
I mean, incredibly, some of the stations afterwards were claiming the ball wasn't going in. Some people said it was going to hit the post. It's going so clearly in that it's like, honestly, the agenda that's come after the Fulham game. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist and stuff like certain teams get decisions, etc. But after that Fulham game, I'm shocked to see people pushed it back to the Fernandez incident with the Mitrovic one, and they're so completely different. It's like I've seen them side by side now, and it's laughable that you'd even compare them. It's mad, and it would suggest to me that people don't like what United are doing this season in terms of their heads are being turned a little bit. But yeah, I hope that Sancho can, in essence, look past all the noise because there's definitely a player in there, and I think Anton, in essence, what he was saying is he's probably one of the most intelligent players we've got, and maybe some of the players around him aren't intelligent enough to play with him because they can't predict his runs, or they're not able to understand what he wants to do or he's going to do. And he's definitely missing some link up. I hope it's true that he has been on the training pitch with Benny McCarthy and some things, because that shows that he's taking it seriously.
I think I've got one final point for myself to add to this. I guess I'm on Team Sancho at the moment. We were speaking about his stats earlier at Manchester United, and I guess from the general consensus of the stuff that I see on Twitter and social media, fans aren't too happy with what he's doing, or they're not too happy with his performances. But then I can just say to them, if you can't be happy with Sancho, then you can't be happy with Anthony. You can't be happy with Weghorst. You can't be happy with a few of our other attackers as well, because Marcus Rashford and I'd say Bruno Fernandes are the only real goal contributors this season in terms of double digits or just about double digits. Anthony, as an attacking winger, doesn't have enough goal contributions, in my opinion, but he's still had, I think, quite a good season. Weghorst literally doesn't really have anything, in terms of paper at the moment, but the games that he does play, there's a reason he starts every match. He doesn't just start every match because Ten Hag is the same, from the same country as him. It's because he's a favourite. It's because he does a job for the team. And he's the reason that, he's one of the reasons why we're getting goals from other places, from Casemiro, Fred, Rashford, and Fernandes as well. Jadon Sancho, the pre-assists aren't a thing, or pre-assists aren't a thing, but he's always there or thereabouts, having a touch or two on the ball before someone gets an assist or before we score a goal. Like, he does a job for the team. Maybe people might have had the wrong idea about him at Dortmund. Yeah, when you were watching him at Dortmund, they play a certain way. And I think what a lot of fans don't realise is that teams play different, and you can't just get a flying winger from one side and put him into this team and expect him to do exactly the same thing. The manager who brought him in would have known that we play a different style of play. Erik would have known that he plays a different style of play. I think the fact that he gave him that time off, the fact that he gave him all the time that he needs to get back into the team, shows that he knows that there's a player there, and he knows that he's going to work in the system that he does. But I think what a lot of fans need to realise is, just because you don't have 20 goals and assists every season, or just because you don't have that many stats for Manchester United this season, doesn't mean you haven't been putting in a shift, doesn't mean you haven't been benefiting the team massively. Who knows? If Jadon Sancho hadn't been playing this whole time, we might not... Sounds like I'm tearing up. Who knows? If we didn't have Sancho this whole time, we might not have scored the amount that we did. We might not have won a few matches that we did. But that's just my piece. I think I think he's going to be fine, to be honest with you. I don't really have any worries for him. Obviously, he does need to get a few more goals and assists. That would be nice. But as long as we're winning games, I actually don't really care. If Rashford gets 50 goals and Sancho gets 0, I couldn't care less. I just want to win the games, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the beauty of being able to see football from just purely a fan's eyes, and that wants to win every game, and also seeing football through footballers' eyes, which is what you do as well. And then people who understand the game and appreciate the game. None of this eye test bullshit, because it's absolute bullshit. That is, you just he looks great on the eyes. Really great.
Yeah.
Any player looks good on the eyes.
Go and get a life. I remember years ago, and don't forget I'm older than you guys, but Juan Sebastian Veron had issues.
Oh, I remember him still, not that.
He had issues. We couldn't get the very, very best out of him. And Dan made a point that, are we utilising Sancho? We got the intelligence in and around him to understand Sancho's game. And there were certain issues with Veron's game that, he struggled to really get a foothold of the Premier League. And that's because sometimes his intelligence was way, way too high for the players that are around him. And I'm talking Paul Scholes was around him at the time, players of that calibre. And we've got it now, with Donny van der Beek to an extent. Donny van der Beek is one intelligent footballer. And every time he's running into space, and he's got 10 yards in the 18-yard box, and we're not picking him out because we can't see him. And he's there standing there going, hold on, look at me. Because he's just wandered into space. he walks and then suddenly he darts and then he's into space. And that's where Sancho, at his very, very best, would pick out somebody like Donny van der Beek. He'd understand what he was doing. He'd understand that side of his game. So football is littered with quality footballers who just cannot seem to fit into a style of play or a team, or they're playing with players that aren't helping him. And maybe Sancho is one of those, which is crazy to say, but when you think about it, he's not played Sancho, has he, with Eriksen, Casemiro, and Bruno?
I don't think so. No.
Maybe a limited number of games.
Maybe a limited number. Maybe he's coming.
I think they've only had a limited number of games together, to be honest.
That's what I mean. So he hasn't experienced that quality. He hasn't under. Can you imagine walking out to that pitch and you've got Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno? Wow, you're 10 foot tall, aren't you?
I think he played a few games early on in the season with Eriksen in the midfield.
Yeah, but Casemiro wasn't there then, was
he? He was.
So. And we talk about this turnover. We talk about this fear. Harry Maguire benefits from having Casemiro in the side. Harry Maguire, bless him. He's not really experienced having that type of central midfielder. Alongside him. So we've got the makings of a great squad, not just a first 11, but a great squad of players. People are saying Maguire should go in the summer. No, he needs to stay. You need somebody of his ilk, because who are you going to replace him with? If you let Maguire go, who are you going to replace him with?
Kim Min-jae.
You are, sorry?
Kim Min-jae, Napoleon, South Korean centre back for Napoli.
Yeah, but my point is, you've got to buy, haven't you?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Who have we got coming through? We haven't got
There's more important positions that we need to be looking at than getting rid of Maguire. I have so many arguments about Maguire. Like, it's people will come with the eye test thing that Stu was just talking about, and they'll say, "Oh, did you watch the game against Fulham? Did you use your eyes?" Well, you're telling me that he didn't progress the ball and his passing wasn't very good, and he didn't run with the ball, but he was in the top 4 for all of them stats, and he's been in the top 3 for the last 3 years. So it's something that he's very good at. That you're going, well, he's not good at it. Well, the stats saying he is. Well, you can't go off stats. Well, I'd prefer to go off stats than an eye test that's failing, because you're saying that he's not making a progressive pass and he's in the top 4 for progressive passes. And I think that happens to a lot of United players. Like Anton mentioned between Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. I've always been more Dalot than Wan-Bissaka, but personally, Wan-Bissaka's been much better since the World Cup. It's like, don't know what's happened to Dalot.
I'd say it's weird, isn't it? What happened?
Yeah,
you did see Wan-Bissaka, and it was all Dalot before World Cup. Now it's virtually been all Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, but
I think Dalot's still injured. To be fair, I don't think.
Yeah, statistically, they're not that far away in every stat in terms of defense and attack. It's minute swings either way, and you think on the face of it, it's quite big, and it's just not. Like, I don't think Wan-Bissaka's that many. I think he's like 1 or 2 assists behind since the start of last season. And on the face of it and what you read on the internet, you'd think it was a massive gap. Same defensively. And I think this is another problem with Sancho. The 6 or so behind him are still not comfortable. They're still sort of like a wounded animal. We're playing in a way where we want to get to the end of the season. He's doing a remarkable job to be doing what we're doing, getting to finals, winning a cup, playing football that necessarily he doesn't want to play, or he's not overly comfortable playing, but he's got them in a way that's working. We lost 2 in 22 or something like that. It's mad what he's achieving. But once you've got the steady base to work off as well, and I've had this discussion with people about the defense. The defense has got loads of plaudits this season in terms of quality, etc. We've conceded more goals this season than we did with Maguire and Lindelof at centre back for 2 seasons. Yeah, you wouldn't think it with the way people talk, but that's what it's like, and it's just you need to have that steady base at the back as well.
That's an inability of people understanding the game, Dan. That's the problem. You've got fans who go to games and they're really, really knowledgeable, and then you've got people you speak to and Maguire shit. Why? I say why. My question is why. Well, no. Tell me why. You tell me why he's shy, because I really want to know. What are you seeing that I'm not? And they can't tell me. Oh, he's back passing to De Gea. Yeah, but it's De Gea that's kicking it out. De Gea should be able to take a back pass. He's a Premier League ex-international footballer who can't take a back pass and kick it out.
He's been selected for Spain though now. again.
Yeah, I know. Why is that Maguire's fault? You know, why is it? You know, if Maguire puts a 10-yard pass into Fred and it pops off his knee, is that Maguire's fault? Yeah, of course it is. Why? Because he could have passed it. Piss off. You don't get football then. You don't understand it. If I'm playing on a Saturday and I'm playing with Anton, right, and I'm got it centre half, and Anton's shouting, Stewie, let me have the ball, and I drop it into him at 10 yards. If I drill it into him at 90 miles an hour, fine, my fault. But
I will take that and turn and get an assist.
Yeah, exactly. But if I knock it to him, right, and then it bops off his knee, and they cut in, they're a bit too quick, and they score, and Anton's going, fucking hell, Stu, and I'm going, hold on, you're the one who miscontrolled it. I just laid you off a ball. And that's where football is. And this is where fans don't get it. They just don't get it. They don't understand it.
And this is where I agree with Anton. So I think that comes to your right back, your left back, your whoever. They're a bit scared to go forward because they're worried about the covering behind. And Casemiro is not going to change everything in one season. We need more stability in the middle, and we need to be just better in general. So Wan-Bissaka needs to know if he goes on a run that Fred's going to drop in, Casemiro's going to drop in, and there's the focus to do that. What happens is he goes for a wander, then we get caught. It happened against Betis. Maguire ended up with a one-on-one because there was no right back, and then Wan-Bissaka for the rest of the game going, "Fucking hell, shall I run? Because if I run, there was a massive gap, so I'm going to have to stay." And then mentally, for 90 minutes, you're going, "I can't leave that space again."
And here's the fans. Oh, well, Maguire, one-on-one, he got beat too easy.
Exactly. And he did really well.
Maguire was 5 yards to the left where he should be.
Yeah.
A big
forced him wide.
There. So he's got to get across the 5 yards. Actually, by the time he gets across, it's 7 yards because the guy's already made some kind of progress. So he's got to bend his run. This is the problem with fans. I'm sorry, but it is. You've got to understand football.
I genuinely think that's what we saw at Liverpool. We saw a breakdown in what Ten Hag's been working on, where gaps just started to open up, and he knows that it's an issue, and he's not throwing anybody under the bus this season. He's just asked them to get on with it. It happens, we move on, and that's what he's sort of working against. There's definitely going to be some changes in summer. Going back to the right back question from 45 minutes ago, I think he's going to go for Dumfries. That seems to be the link, or even Timber.
We're without Frimpong, haven't we?
I do like Frimpong. Even Van Gaal said he plays almost like a right winger. He did say he needs to improve his defensive side of his game, but all I heard was right winger right there. You have someone who's comfortable overlapping, intricate play, and playing football in and around opposition area, which is very different to playing football in your own half, in the right back position. So I think Frimpong would be my first choice. I mean, if Hakimi was realistic, he would be my first choice, but I do
is
like
Hakimi the one from PSG?
Yeah, I think he's the best.
Yeah.
I think he's the best right back in the world, without question. In my opinion, I think he's perfect. He can play left back as well. He can play right back, right wing back, right mid. You probably could play him right wing as well. He's very fast, probably the fastest right back in the world as well. When he gets in the final third, he makes good decisions and quick decisions. He's keeping up. He's running with Mbappe and Messi and Neymar. They'll be having 4-on-2, and Hakimi will be there as well. He's got the lungs. He's got the stamina to play. And I think at the World Cup especially, we saw the best of him in that Morocco team that I think got to the semis or something, didn't they? But as I said, if he was realistic, he'd be my first choice. But I can't see us getting him from PSG.
No chance. No. Unfortunately, for me, it'd be Timber if we were to look outside the UK. And the reason I say Timber is he's quite versatile. And sometimes you need a bit of versatility. So I always thought Axel Tuanzebe could be a versatile back four player.
Forgot about him.
I did. Yeah, when he was coming through, I thought he'd be a great right back as well as a good centre half. And I've always said that sometimes you need to reinvent yourself in the professional game. If you're not making it at centre half, turn yourself into a right back. Do something to win. And these players don't. But Hakimi, yeah, absolutely. But I just like Max Aarons. I just like his approach to the game, and I like what he does. I like his attitude to the game, and I'm amazed he's not been picked up. I know he was linked with Newcastle, wasn't he? In
He was linked with us for a couple of seasons, wasn't he? A few seasons back. Heavily linked, yeah.
We didn't, but again, Walker Peters, another good, and he's been brilliant for Southampton. He has absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So,
I mean, if Southampton go down, they do have a couple of decent players, which you might, or maybe we could get them on the cheap, maybe perhaps.
You've got about 5. You got Romero Lavia, DM, Bella Kotchap, centre back, Tino Livramento, the right back who was injured for the
Livramento would be a good shout.
Walker Peters as well. Then you got Ward Prowse. Even Shea Adams, I'm not going to lie. He could go to a top half Prem side, sit on the bench, maybe push for a starting 11 place because he's quite good. I just don't think it works for him at Southampton. But I think everybody in the bottom 12 have at least 3 or 4 good players that they could lose if they went down.
You seem to forget, though, Anton, that our fan base don't like just, average, what they call average players. What do you want somebody from Southampton for? Why would you look at X? Why would you look at, Z? You've got to be looking at Mbappe. We've got to be looking at Neymar. Fuck off.
Can you imagine if they grew up watching Wes Brown, John O'Shea, Phil Neville, all who were massive players into stuff that we won? Yeah.
It's also like you look about Liverpool. They got Van Dijk and Mane from there. We got Luke Shaw from there, didn't we?
It's the manager. I don't think it's. You could get. Oh, look! Tottenham got Dele Alli from League One. For a period of time, he was the best young player in his position in European football. It's totally dependent on 2 people: the actual player's mentality and the manager that they have. Now we have Erik ten Hag, who we've already seen demonstrate his, abilities in terms of improving players. Or if he's not improving them, he's putting them in a better headspace to perform better. He could totally get someone like Kyle Walker-Peters, who I think is 26 or something like that. He's not young, but he's not, he's not reached the peak of his powers yet. Or Tino Livramento. I think Erik ten Hag could do quite a lot with a couple of players like that. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Stu. A lot of fans just want to see. They want to see on Sky Sports News in like yellow headline banner, Kylian Mbappe in Manchester.
£500,000 a week.
Yeah, that's what they want to see. Although that would excite me.
Also look at players like I've sort of this one with you, Stu, where Paulinho at Fulham.
Yeah, he's good.
It's just like not many would say, these. People don't get football, they won't look at Paulinho, will it? It's like he'd be brilliant signing for us.
20 million euros, he ran the game against us.
Oh yeah, we discussed it on the last show.
Not many would say Ferguson at Brighton, though, would they? It's just, and he's Irish, isn't it? That and for me, obviously with you, Stu, you'll know that because we've had a great connection with Irish players. Down the decades or down. I'm not usually one for buying people nationality, but for me, we've not had an Irish player for a number of years. So for me, you get the best Irish prospect.
We should be looking at. We should be all over that, John. Yeah. All over that by now.
Absolutely, I agree.
Forget the impending takeover. We should be all over that.
Yeah, agreed.
But I mean. I could sit here and talk for hours, but I can't, unfortunately.
No, I know.
But I hope
I've just got a lovely stat for Dav really quickly because of the message you put up on the thing. So Maguire in the last 3 seasons is top for defensive headers of anybody else at the football club.
Oh God, yeah, miles.
So
makes sense.
Dav's just put his marking at corners is poor. He's literally statistically the best at the club, and that's exactly what I mean by. There's a weird misconception with some players that they're not good at stuff, and they're actually very good at stuff. But because it's all over Twitter and the media that, for example, Sancho wasted a chance, even though he had basically scored the goal, it doesn't weigh up all the time.
I get what you mean. But with that, to Dav, that was aimed at you, Dav, for that comment. We're going to say goodbye. But before we say that, do you guys just want to tell everybody where they can find you and potentially carry on this discussion on Twitter? Go on, Dan.
Just at RP Field for pretty much everything. Twitter, Twitch, everything.
And Stu?
Yeah, you can get me at Stu Woolley if you want to abuse me. Go ahead.
This is and I'm at John_Kermo too on Twitter.
And mine is on the screen as well. But don't abuse me because you won't get a reply, to be honest. But yes, guys, thank you guys for watching. This is the first All for United show of the international break, I think. Luckily for us, on the topic of international breaks, Rashford has pulled out due to injury. That stinks of Sir Alex Ferguson, but we've got a new one in Erik ten Hag. So hopefully Luke Shaw pulls out as well. That's what I'm hoping for. But we're going to say goodbye. Thank you guys for watching, and we should be back in a couple of days with some more content on the channel. I'll see you guys later.